Right, ladies and gentlemen, we start with the part 2 of the day's proceedings, and that is about the Naxalite movement. Now, as far as the Maoist movement in India is concerned, it is a long history of which goes back to 40 years. But in India, actually, we really remember this movement with the uprising which took place in Telangana in 1946 to 51. It is thereafter an armed peasant uprising took place in 1969, and the CPI-ML was formed. After that, there was serious differences on in this party, both on the strategic and tactical lines. And what was the subject? The problem was whether they should fight the elections or not. And this party disintegrated into many, and ultimately into 23 factions. And in 1990, they held many talks and to somehow unify once again, but it didn't happen. Finally, in 2004, the two big Maoist groups joined up, and they were known as CPI-M. And as I said, the 23 different fragments had already occurred in this party. Now, you will be surprised as to how well the insurgency is organized. And actually, all insurgencies survive only if they are well organized, otherwise there is no chance for them to survive. Now, they also have a wing which is the strategy and tactics of the Indian Revolution. As a matter of fact, they also have an R&D wing. It is the government of India which suffers from the lack of R&D, but the insurgents in India have an R&D wing. So they have to work out the weapon system which they must acquire from the weapons market which is available in the world. There are so many places where you can buy weapons with ease. And in this, they introduced the so-called revolution in this, as a part of this wing. And they said that they will have a so-called, they will have a revolution in India through an armed struggle. And the enemies, three main enemies are imperialism, feudalism and bureaucratic capitalism. And the main forces, their components, which were to create this revolution in the country were the proletariat, that is the normal citizens, the lowest of the low, the peasants and also the petty businessmen. The central aim of this revolution was of course to capture political power. Ultimately it is the political power, and they wanted to have a protected revolution and insurgency on the lines of what Mao Zedong did in China. The poverty in the country has provided them a fertile, of course, land. And the fact that after independence we were to develop, it took a lot of time for the poverty eradication. As a matter of fact, even now we are still struggling with that. And even though we have a middle class population of 300 million, we also have some billionaires in the country which can be counted amongst the world's very few or in the first 100. Also the fact of life is that we have over 1/3 of our population which is in the abject poverty. And added to the fuel to the fire was the inept bureaucracy and also the rampant corruption at all levels. And that's what created major problem for our country. Now, in 2006, the Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh, that time, while addressing a conference of the Chief Ministers, said about Naxalism, the conference was about Naxalism, it would not be an exaggeration to say that the problem of Naxalism is the single biggest internal security challenge ever faced by our country. I really do not understand. In 2004, I happened to talk to, I will not name the gentleman, but one of the cabinet ministers and a very responsible cabinet minister, one of the high-ups, and I talked to him about the Naxalite movement. And that time the army, I was in service, and we have given a presentation to the defense minister then also that this problem is going to go out of hand and the government must start working on it then, and not ask the army to step in, because the army will not like to come in a problem which is in the heartland of India. You can fight the insurgents on the two wings of the country, but you can't be fighting your own countrymen in the country. And Mr. Pradhan Mukherjee was given his presentation, and before that, Mr. George Fernandez also. And it is in later, I remember talking to the cabinet minister, and I said, look, this problem is getting out of hand, and what do you do? He said, no, General, you don't understand the problem. It is only confined to 31 thanas. And he translated the problem into the thanas. Thereby, this was a law and order problem. That's where I think we went totally wrong, and we never took it as a problem, where the poverty eradication and the good of the people was the main, should have been the main thrust. And that's how this problem has spread. And there have been over 8,000 people who've been killed in the country, including the insurgents and the soldiers and the civilians. And in Chhattisgarh, which is the subject of the day, over 635 soldiers, insurgents have been killed, and about 700 policemen have been killed. And now, of course, there is a very good arrangement which has been put into place by bringing in an army officer to have got a training school and all that. That Mr. Shekhar Dutt will talk about. Now, Mr. Shekhar Dutt, I must say, has been the Defense Secretary of the country, and he has also been the Deputy NSA, and thereafter the Governor of Chhattisgarh. So nobody more eminently suited to talk on this subject than him. And when I requested him to talk on this, he very gladly accepted the invitation, and for that we are most grateful to him. So on to Mr. Shekhar Dutt for his talk on the insurgency and the Naxalite problem in Chhattisgarh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Vic. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The subject tonight is left-wing extremism or the Naxal menace, which has General Vic introduced. Naxal, as a name, came out of Naxal Bari, and the people thought that there is a large amount of idealism, especially of the rural people, and that was considered by many as a rural revolution. And I think at that time, Shankar Ray was the Chief Minister, and with excellent support from the police and the law enforcing agencies, well trained by the army, the Naxalism was ousted from there. But it survived at Srikakulam and some other places, and then it came gradually towards the central portion of India. One major difference was that the state government of Bengal, West Bengal at that time, had started a fair amount of rural development. And so the Naxalites found that the floor was taken away from under their feet. Whereas the other places, it was said that rural reconstruction had not been started because we didn't have the land settlement, and the tillers were not in possession of the land or those who possess land did not own it, and therefore this thing survived. I have seen for the last, say, 6 years, 5 years in Chhattisgarh that there is a huge difference from the time the Naxal movement started and the time that it is now, and we call it left-wing extremism. Even this left wing, I think, is a misnomer, because not necessarily connected with a great deal of ideology. But I think in the form of the organization, it takes a huge amount of ability to run the organization as well as to constitute the organization, and that comes from the Maoist doctrine, or Mao Zedong's philosophy. So what I do is I've got given the structure of this organization. That's no, it's a Maoist ideology, and as General Witch pointed out, they conceived this protracted people's war and seizure of power as the central task. And circling from the countryside, basically the target is city. Basically the target is the seat of power of any government. So, encircling the cities from the countryside and thereby finally capturing them. And then the mass organization and mass struggles are necessary, because the purpose of the masses is to serve the war. And this was the genesis of People's Liberation Army. Much later, when I was in the Ministry of Defense, we understood how Mao Zedong's philosophy has ultimately emerged into China, today's China, which is by no accounts a leftist government. Today's China, People's Liberation Army really holds the power. Not only physical power, but also economic power. And this, I mean, at a time, say in the 1940s, when Mao Zedong conceived of this, and how it has emerged, from that point today. Digressing a little bit, in one of the big, say, communication giant of the world, it's called Huawei, and it was about to be given a contract, major contract in India, when the OSD to the minister came to me and he says, this is going to be tomorrow's CCEA paper. Can you see whether it is, since it has never come to the Ministry of Defense, can you see whether it affects us? And since the minister is away, maybe you could brief him. So I put a few friends and we looked at it that night. And next day I told the minister that virtually this organization, Huawei, is going to be given the power to understand every import which is taken place in India through Bombay and Chennai port. And next day the minister succeeded in getting this thing delayed. Now, after that, Huawei, we wanted to know what is Huawei and who is actually owning. And Nalin Suri, who was the ambassador, foreign ambassador at China, told that it is actually owned by PLA, People's Liberation Army. And it's a multinational a big giant, telecom giant of the world today. So that's the kind of a thing. So Mao actually conceived the PLA. Now, the expanse of Maoism, we have listed this about 21 states, and in some way or the other, it is manifested by its presence, or sometimes when you have some incident. But if you don't have an incident, please don't think that the presence is not there. The states where which have been given in bold letters, Andhra, Telangana, Orissa, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra and Bihar and Jharkhand on the other side, are the places where we have incidents. And incidents may be anything, you know. If the Maoists think today that they are falling short of ammunition, or maybe Sten guns, or maybe Insas rifle, and they can go and mount, they can go and see one of the railway trains which is going and is given protection by the railway police force, and you might find the Maoists board the train and succeed in either disarming those police chaps or killing them. Actually, the whole aim is not to only to kill the policemen; they want the arms. So we had this thing. Train was going from Danapur to Patna, small distance, and the Maoists boarded, and they took the weapons out of 5 railway protection force police chaps, and they killed them. Or I think 2 or 3 were killed, and rest were pushed out of the train, and they got the weapons. So what I'm saying is, if you don't have an incident, don't think that they are not there. They are there. Because the whole aim is, you know, with this organization, they are able to sustain, and I will say, even their livelihood. Now, this is the organization structure of the CPI Maoists as it is known now, classically. The Politburo at the top and Central Committee, CC, and then you have on the left the political organization, and on the right the military organization. The political organization and military organization are completely separate. In fact, many times on interrogation we found that the political organization chaps don't know who's the military commander, or don't have any familiarity with their counterparts in the military organization. So each one has its own hierarchy, and they communicate through lead persons or persons who have been tasked for communication. So you have political organization at the regional level, the area level, the zonal level or district level, and the dharams at the village level. It's basically, as General Vic said, basically it's a well-defined organization. And same way, the military organization, the Central Military Commission, they need not be in the jungles or in the heartland. They might be of all you know in Delhi or Bombay or Visakhapatnam. And today, communication has made it possible for them to act. They may be in 5 different places. Then you have the State Military Commission, who will be in the state, but not necessarily in that state. They might be operating from the next state. Special Area Military Commission, and then the battalion company, platoon, sections. Some wear uniform, some don't. And many of them are from the same locality. So this, as you go down in the hierarchy, you find people from the locality. But as you go up in the hierarchy, you will find that it would be different people. Say, in Chhattisgarh, the leadership of the Maoists is not Chhattisgarhi at all. It is not tribal at all. It is Andhra, Raos and Reddys, and they are, fairly well to do. The upper caste. In Odisha, it is headed by a chap called Sabyasachi Panda, a Brahmin, and same age. Huh?
Yes, sorry, sir. He has surrendered. He has surrendered.
Anyway, he was heading. He has surrendered because of the difficulty or the dispute between the leadership itself. Then you have in Odisha, then you have in the Bihar or Jharkhand. Again, these are not tribals. The upper caste, Biharis or from Bengal, and they lead. And they have the ability to manipulate the manpower that is there with them. Okay, now we come to Chhattisgarh. I should have displayed a couple of more maps. Now you see on the right Chhattisgarh and the districts given in the color, and in the south, and similarly green color in the north. They all are, at least on one side, flanked by another state, the borders districts. And so at the bottom you find Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, then you have Maharashtra, and then Madhya Pradesh, a long stretch with Madhya Pradesh. Then from the right you have Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, and Jharkhand, and it goes on to Uttar Pradesh and then again Madhya Pradesh. Now, if I had given another map showing the geographical features, you would have found that the one showing at the bottom would be green, heavily forested, and if you put another color, say brown or purple, heavily mineral brown. So all minerals and forest, they are in this area. Similarly, minerals and forests in this area. So apart from being flanked by different states, they also have another peculiarity, that they are not primarily agriculture, but they have forestry and mineral-based economy. Now, 7 Naxal divisions in the Dandakaranya. Dandakaranya is primarily in the Bastar area. And 2 divisions of Orissa Committee are active. 10 military companies which are in this central regional, working along with the AP and Orissa, Chhattisgarh borders. 25 military platoons, 37 area committees, and like that it goes on. Again, along with the political hierarchy, the military hierarchy is also working, and it's concentrating on these areas. Now the impact of Maoism. People in the interior areas are forced, because of fear. And how do they get this fear? And how the Maoists get fear transplanted on human beings? The local persons are either police informers or they are foreign Naxals. And that is what they make them to believe. So if a chap is considered to be a police informer, or if they want to teach lessons, they will lift one person, usually a tribal, and then commit untold amount of violence on his physical body. So that the person becomes a kind of an example to the local people that please do not rat about us to the police. And that's the way they make these people to be afraid. Health, education, infrastructure development are absolutely essential in this area. Now, I would like you to come back to this map. Bastar, the lower portion, is about 40,000 square kilometers, larger than Kerala. It has a population density of 0 to 50 per square kilometer. Very sparsely populated. In fact, in the country itself, there are not many places which are as sparsely populated, maybe Lahore and Spiti or Ladakh. Similarly, the top portions, that is Sarguja division, has a population density of 50 to 100. The biggest population density, the highest population density is in the central region, which might be 5 or 6 times more. So what happens is that the area which is got fully forested and which is the infrastructure is very poor. There these guerrilla bases and mobile warfare is practiced. And then occasionally a police vehicle is targeted. IED blast, whenever it happens, is followed by intense firing. And it is always in a typical army doctrine, it will be in a killing ground. So, and they have this area quite well seen by people who will be knowing the layout very well. And if and when the police vehicle comes, even if it is taking a polling party and it is blasted, thereafter they fire indiscriminately in a manner that the wounded people are not able to be taken out. So this also to demonstrate their ability to the local people. They use women and children as human shields, ruthlessly kill informers or so-called informers. They are not, many times they are not even informers, they got no connection with the police, but just to demonstrate. And then they spread terror by Jan Adalat. Jan Adalat is something like this, that a person is picked up and they put their own people out, also some of the persons from the local areas, and they say that you be the punch and you decide. ये आदमी तुम्हारे ऊपर में ये करता है और ये आदमी ने तुम्हारे पास में आकर के एक खाना खाया और कहा कि खाना खिलाओ or something like that. And finally, they want the Janadana to give some punishment, and that punishment is given at the spot. Now, sometimes I feel that it's about the same thing, what we saw some time ago, that some people were thrown ink here in Delhi, ink upon or slap, as if it was the people who were giving this kind of punishment. And the same thing over there. The only difference is that the person who is punished usually loses a limb or some part of the body or even his life. They use sophisticated weapons like twin deadly shells and all that, which is basically and some of it is even fabricated by themselves. They use front organizations like PUCL. You have the classic case, a chap who used to treat them and used to stand up for them in the courts in Raipur. When he was arrested and detained, I got letters from around 50 Nobel Prize winners. And from USA, from Europe, mainly from Europe. And they were talking. Now, how does this kind of information go over there? This kind of an organization like PUCL, or there might be good lawyers in Delhi, or some people in the academia, and they speak with tremendous emotion, and of course they are fairly articulate, and they succeed in putting their points. So this is another wing which continues to be the main support in the capital or other places. Then they use urban network for supply line, including ammunition, trucks and others. And the truck fellow will not know. Some chap would put in something, usko de dena, and the fellow gives that parcel, and that might have some, say, detonators and things like that. Because of all these incidents, the connectivity, both road and communication, remains poor. In fact, I found that even on a road which was being looked after by, because it was a national highway, from Maharashtra into Chhattisgarh into Andhra Pradesh, and it had to cross a river called Indravati, which is just on the border of Maharashtra and Chhattisgarh. Then it meets Godavari and comes. That bridge has not yet been built. And for, I don't know how many years, more than say 6-7 years, the work is going on. And the contractors come, work, and then run away. Again, another contractor, and our system of awarding contract is such that it takes, every time a contractor runs away, thereafter again we start moving in. I have found it was easier to build a road at Afghanistan by the VR road than over here. And it is absolutely vital for the Naxal that this road is not completed. So how would then, and on the map, you find that there is a class 7 road connecting Maharashtra through Chhattisgarh and to Andhra Pradesh. Class 7 road. And I visualized, in some of the comic, this thing, the chaps would be rushing, at breakneck speed in today's SUVs and MUVs, and come at a place and suddenly they find a big looming river, and there's no bridge. The political space, the guys who are there very seldom are able to take up or stand on their feet and say words against these guys. I had found that long ago when I was in Chambal, Morena, when the dacoits used to be known as Agis by the romantic people and the film world, and then Bade Bhai Log by the villagers. And they wouldn't even ever say that this fellow is a such as a dacoit. At that time, I had asked Tehsildar Singh, who was the son of Man Singh and a reformed dacoit, because he was captured during the encounter in which one Singh died, and we used Tehsildar Singh to get other dacoits out and surrender. So I asked Tehsildar Singh, आप कैसे घूमते थे वहाँ पे बेहड़ों में? So Tehsildar Singh in 1976, mind you, says that, and in Bundelkhandi, साफ सूडो बात है, जिनन गावन में पुलिसन के वोट ज्यादा हाथ हम नहीं जाते, जिनन गावन में हमारे वोट ज्यादा हाथ पुलिसन नहीं आते. The villages where the police had more votes, we don't go. And where we had more votes, police don't come. 1976, and the chap was talking about vote, and the chap was talking about, the politics. But basically, it is who supports who. And the Naxals, by their establishing that fear amongst people, ensure that the votes, even if it is won by anybody, they don't speak again. Okay, now you consider this slide for two purposes. One is, of course, this thing called vacuum, or where the government doesn't exist. The other is the size. You take this Abuj mark, and it is not mapped. The roads exist, some roads, villages are there, even schools and fair price shops are there, but no map. And in fact, this area is always known as a kind of an area which is not controlled by the state of India. And it's 5,500 square kilometers. This is the smallest territory, and even this is 700 square kilometers. This is Bastar district. And the area which is uncovered are where periodically you find the police mounts an effort along with the central police forces, and usually some incident happens. This is the Chinta Gufa and Chintalnar area where we had this is Chintalnar, and we had this 76 CRPF being killed in one incident. Now, operational challenges felt by the police, extremely difficult terrain because it is rivers, rivulets, undulated terrain. For every infrastructure project, you require more, even to get material. You have to get material from outside, so it costs more, and it can be, it is difficult to maintain. Very poor road networks. There is no way that, even small things like taking teachers could be succeeded without supplying the teachers' families with the essential supplies. And very poor road network, bridges, culverts. So even during the earlier times when there were no Naxalism here, the administration used to mount seasonally, every season, say in the month of February to May or April, before the monsoon sets in, stocking up the villages by food grain and maybe agriculture stuff like urea or some fertilizer. Now, this is even more difficult because the all these areas are, all these replenishments are targeted. Poor communication, hilly forested areas, mobile towers, time and again, and none of the private channels, private mobile towers have succeeded, and they don't, next time they don't. In fact, the first time also, very reluctantly, one or two private channels, private communication companies went in. So we have to depend upon the BSNL. Even their towers are very skillfully uprooted by controlled, you can say, detonation. Then you have this language barrier. After one incident, I said that I'll go. So, and that was at the Chettalnar area. And so the Chief Minister, Kamal Singh, was a very fine person. He also said, I will come. So both of us, and then we found the DG police also in the same helicopter, and we went there. And we talked with the villagers. Can you imagine all these villagers were speaking in their language, and another person was translating it and telling us what are they saying. So I asked, who's this chap? Happened to be a journalist. Sahara Today or Sahara Samay or something like that. And this chap was, so they were either speaking in Halbi or Gondi, and that also in their local this thing. So Gondi, a little more difficult, Gondi, and he was being translated. Now, unless and until you have, and not only a good knowledge, but you are able to communicate with your children, how do the people feel that, these people, the people from outside are not really outsiders? So this language is a huge, and they are not just Gondi and Halbi, they can be Abuj, Madhyas will have another language, and or maybe 2 or 3 different dialects, because the Hill Madhyas would have another dialect, Muryas would have another dialect, like that. Shortage of middle-level commanders as far as the police is concerned. Huge deficit. And the numbers of between the officers and the ones that we know as JCOs, but basically they are sub-inspectors, inspectors, DSPs. The huge deficit. And then, as I said, nil presence in remote areas, unsustained operations. You may mount an operation, but you can't sustain it because your supply lines are too difficult to maintain. Non-actionable intelligence. Actually, actionable intelligence is what has to be there. If it is intelligence is delayed, it is not actionable. And we all live by hindsight wisdom. But basically, what is if a big target, if a leader has entered from, say, one end of Bijapur and is going towards Odisha, if we come to know after 2 days, the fellow is gone. We have to trap him at the time when he is dead. So this unactionable intelligence is primarily because the foot has to be on ground. 71 war, I was dealing with the entire theatre because I was the FO, and I had 4 25 inches map. And as the first, I was getting air fire and artillery fire. And my maps were 1925. It was conceived in 1925 and very little. So I'm saying that this kind of gap in intelligence is fatal at places like this. Difficult evacuation. Air Force has deployed a number of Mi-8s and Mi-17s. Also helicopters. But even if the helicopter has to come and evacuate, you would require certain numbers. And that kind of number the state cannot just afford. And so, if you go to Raipur airport, you will find the Air Force helicopters are there, but they are there, they are able to go in there. They quite a lot of sorties they are able to do. In fact, one of the Air Force crew was shot at and he was killed. But it's not enough. You require a much larger numbers of helicopters. And similarly, the STF are overcommitted. Almost all the time they are on action because somewhere some information comes and they go. So the forces, now security forces assisting development projects like bridge and road construction, because the entire developmental projects, large area and continuous, the effort is very, you can say the protection is very thin. We found that in Afghanistan, we did that wherever there was a mechanized element, and we put one company of ITBP, and with that one company of ITBP, we were able to construct the whole road. But over here, the effort is spread thin over large area, and at every place you have different contractors and who bring their mechanized, the equipment, and periodically in the newspapers you will find that these fellows went and torched 4 bulldozers, 5 JVCs, like that. So I think we have to learn from Afghanistan how India constructed that road. But again, I mean, to give them the due, it was only one road connecting Iran and bringing, say, Bandar Abbas as a starting point to Kabul, and this was constructed. But here, there are maybe more than 50 to 60 roads, which are at the same time being taken. Police people, I find that in the Defense Ministry, we used to have this major project called MAP, Married Accommodation Project, because the services, especially the Army, and in some places Air Force also, very poorly housed. They don't have enough, in some places it was the 30% families had some houses anywhere. This area, almost 100% is without houses. And you open a thana, that thana doesn't have any quarters at all. And there's nothing like married accommodation or even accommodation, even messy. So the Police Housing Corporation or something, they start and they do some work, but it's not enough. It will take years before they can actually bring, say, something like 50% satisfaction. Livelihood colleges for skill development of tribal youth in the LWE district is something which has been tried in the last few years. And this is absolutely essential, because if they have some skills, then they can go out and participate in development. So what we did was get the young children out, train them, put them back. And this is a fairly large numbers. In fact, you will be happy that last year, year before last, I came and saw of 5 Abuj Madiyas who are studying in postgraduate classes in Delhi University, Hindu College, physics honors, and Abuj Madiyas, whose forefathers or even their parents had never gone to school. So this is the kind of thing, but it will take time. The first Abuj Madiya who came into a medical college was about 5-6 years ago, and Swami Vyaptanand ji from Narayanpur, Ramakrishna Mission, he personally brought him, and I met him, and then I said that, okay, I'll go and see him into this medical college. They said, no, he has to be examined again. I said, what? Then after some time I found that he was sent to Jabalpur. I said, why? He said that to establish that he is disabled enough to get a disability quota. I said, but he is a tribal, he is a primitive tribal group person. He said, no, all the tribal seats have been taken away by the other tribals who are better off, So, he came as a disabled person into because he got fortunately a disability quota. He had deformity of the spine. And I asked him when he met me that you might be going to medical college, what branch are you going to be interested in? He says gastroenterology. A tribal whose father, mother or anybody had never gone to school. So that's the kind of a thing. But it will take a lot of time. And he was the first ever primitive tribal group person to have gone into higher education. Now, the challenges, big challenges, like I said, for road connectivity, for telecom, communication, contractors reluctant to come. Now, this is a little thing which one has to understand. You see, in the Indian system of contract, the tender notice, and you say that all right, then he says that there will be so many percent which will be higher than the normal because of these reasons. So it's all right because the tender would accommodate provided it is competitive. Okay, then they would also want that for collection of materials or for this thing so much advance to be given. Now this advance portion is manipulated because the first incident which happens, the contractor would come and he says, I give up. But he's already taken that advance. Now how does the government get back that advance? Because there will be a little clause in this thing that because of either natural or this kind of Naxal or something, and if they burn some of his equipment, the contractor is able to leave, and then the next contract will not be there in that season. It takes a lot of time. We don't have another organization like BRO, but I think time has come when these areas we cannot just do without infrastructure, and the infrastructure has to be built by organization which can be supervised and run like even the BRO. But even the BRO is not capable of doing it alone without security cover. They are unarmed. In Afghanistan, a BRO chap had been captured. Finally, he was killed. He was captured by the Taliban, and they wanted basically to dissuade any work to be taken, but he was killed. But that was the only physical loss, only loss which the BRO suffered in like 3-4 years of road construction. Doctors, teachers and civil department employees hesitate to serve in LWE areas because, and they have this reason, large security vacuum areas still exist in Bastar, evacuation a challenge, and IEDs are difficult to. So I had met this equivalent to the DRDO chief of US government, a very renowned scientist, and he carried a lot of weight. And I asked him that in Syria, in Iraq and Afghanistan, you are losing so many people because of IED blast. Why can't you devise something? Have you? He said, no, we have not been able to devise any, any equipment which can determine that there is an IED buried somewhere. So we are trying to devise that, and we will fit it into a helicopter, and that will do a low run. That will fly very low, and it will catch, it will have sensors. But even United States haven't been able to. So the IED, very crude form, are extremely successful in making a spectacular blast. Now this is something which sustains the Maoists. They earn a lot of funds, lot of funding through established channels. Tendupatta contractors of PDP, when it's a big, very large operation in the Tendupatta season, and it is very carefully sort of planned, and every ठेकेदार pays. Illegal plucking of sanctuaries is also done, so he not only pays for legal work, he also pays and protected for doing illegal work. Then the food mafia. Because of the very high quality of the forest, teak, and this is cut. It is, and there is a place, there are a number of places in the Godavari River where it is dumped, and like in the Wild West, during the rivers, when the river is in spate, it goes. So there are places in Andhra Pradesh which has these sawmills. And where does the wood come from? From this area. In fact, I suspect that a lot of minerals also are stolen like this. And this fellow, that Bellari brother, could have physically taken so much of say, iron ore and exported, unless until he had got some from Chhattisgarh. And it goes, when this iron ore is these fellows, the market is China. And China just opened its doors in receiving iron ore from wherever it came. So all that you required was an export license to China. So therefore, wood, mining industries and mining done by both private sector or through contractors. Then the forest produce. There are at least over 100 different kind of forest produce. Imli is one of the largest. 30% of India's Imli, tamarind, comes from here. And I showed Dr. Raman Singh, called him once, and I said that this is 75 sauce, or some sauce which is British made. And I said, read it, isme kya hai? Tamarind. So, a good quality of tamarind ends up in the plates of Europeans and in the United States, and it can come from here. So the minor forest produce is a big business. It should be running to tens of thousands of crores. Then you have other this thing, and everybody who is being shown in this the black print pay the Maoists to run their business. They have collections at all stages of this Telugu leaves, and like the Siege family makes a profit of 15 to 20,000, and approximately 200 rupees per standard bag is extorted by the Naxals. So there are millions of standard bags. Now I just asked some of my friends over there to tell me about what is the amount, and these are all fairly standardized, which is well known. 12,000 rupees from each truck which operates there. 5,000 rupees from each truck or bus, 12,000 rupees from each truck or bus which operates in that area. 5,000 for each sumo or Sherpa or Scorpion vehicle. 5% levy from the road contractors, 100 rupees each house. Now these are some kind of amount. So it is not difficult to estimate the amount of earning which the Naxal leader has. He not only with that can feed his the volunteers who join, but also his own future. So it is not again difficult to understand, in the Chambal, in the Baghi days, there is a revolving restaurant. Many people must have gone in Bombay. In Churchgate area. That was owned by a dacoit and then taken by a smuggler. And it's right in the heart of Bombay. So how many restaurants like that at different places where these fellows have actually earned? Ulfa, that Paresh Badua, has all his children studying in Swiss colleges. And a lot of people feel that after this Khalida Zia was taken off, or she lost the election, and Hasina came, and Paresh Badua was an unwelcome chap, and he must have gone through. I suspect that Paresh Badua must have flown to Europe, and then from there he went to China, because he is in China. And so they are well looked after. All this money is earned by and through extortion. The tea industry in Assam, mining industry over here, or wood industry over here, or in Orissa, or in Jharkhand. So, how to block? The contractors should somewhere be reported upon, and even if you have, even if you have all transactions through banks, there would be methods by which, bank payment would be suppressed and cash payment would be more. In fact, there was a train which was, some people would know, in Maharashtra, and they found huge, it runs into tens of crores of notes, and this was caught by the police, and it was coming from this area, because they earn through extortion, and all this money is basically cash. Transportation of Tendu, transportation routes can be fixed, biodata of all contractors, that they should actually keep on following him and understand. Actually, the good amount of surveillance of these people and close interaction with them, not interrogation, because then when they know that you are interrogating, they'll give wrong answers. But a close interaction with them would enable the police and the law enforcing people to find out who are they, where they giving money. If they are working in, say, South Basta, who has been given the money for protecting them, and that has to be done. The sources, the funding channel, I am fully convinced has to be blocked. Legal proceedings should be initiated for giving money. There was a case against a fairly large industrialist who had given close to a 3-digit figure of protection money for carrying out mining activities, and the case was being progressed and then given up after it. But basically, this kind of a thing has to be continued to be followed. All transactions, as I said, through banks, but I feel that it might not be fully, successful, because these people will find ways of having more payment through cash. Then Unlawful Activities Prevention Act or something should be, so the police should have greater powers in handling this kind of then only the channels of funding can be blocked. Now, response of the Chhattisgarh government. Amongst all the governments in that region, Chhattisgarh has had the brunt of, and practically, all the methods of which could be tried has been tried by Chhattisgarh, and you find that in the last 10 years, the budget has jumped from 388 to 2,300 crores. SPFs have been constituted, SIPs, strength of police increase, new Central Armed Police force has been sanctioned, and all these things. I had suggested that it will continue to happen unless and until the police people, especially the leaders, are trained by the army. So I had taken the Chief Minister, we met at Delhi, and the Chief Minister gave this assurance that the army could train their police officers, because there are 6 or 7 police training institutions which have been formed, but there are no tactical training, no training of jungle warfare. With a lot of interaction, I think this ex-service people have been put in, and they are doing a wonderful work. But I would say that this, you can train a person now, the fresh band comes in, you have to train him, so it's a continuous affair. And the numbers of policemen who have to be deployed is enormous. And you cannot do it through just temporarily deployment of central police forces like CRPF, because after maybe a tenure of 3 months or 6 months, the fellows go from there. And when they come, they don't know about the lay of the land. When they go, they are well educated, but they have to go because they have to be deployed somewhere else, or we may have elections or something. So it's a nightmare for the Home Ministry to put in or continue to put in central police bands. It has to be the state police. And really speaking, the state police can get the local intelligence. So you have to have. So I don't know. I found that in Madhya Pradesh, when I was Education Secretary, just primary schools, teachers were the largest employees of the state. And the next largest happened to be police. In Chhattisgarh, police would be vying, to be first along with the school teachers. How many employees can a state government have? So you have to find ways that a very large police force to be deployed so that they are able to cover the entire, area, and it has to be the local police. So community policing and all these things have been tried and have been extremely successful, but we've had problems at the courts also, because this was taken up that, oh well, these fellows have been given extraordinary license, and so we have to actually be very careful in taking non-policemen to do the policeman's job. Unified command has been under the Honorable Chief Minister, and that's working very well because this Chief Minister, because the police people have to have the courage of saying something that we want this, or this is actually the problem, and that has to be solved. And this will go a long way. But you cannot have a Chief Minister continuously dealing with just Naxal issues. So that's another big problem. Capacity building, like I said earlier, we have to have the capacity of the police people to do jungle war. This is not part of their training. At best, the training would be to do law and order duties or to pursue criminal or crime detection. So, fair amount of infrastructure has been created to get police people trained. And like I said, this training is a continuous affair. 37 battalions are deployed, which is a very large amount of battalions. I mean, if you take in the 71 war, we didn't have 37 battalions in the entire Gujarat to Punjab border. 2 divisions didn't have 37 battalions. So it's mind-boggling how much troop can this area cover. And here also these 23 CRPF, 2 Cobra, and these are, I believe, Cobra battalions are going to be shown this time in the, and you'll find them. They are good, first-class commandos. So numbers have to be increased, training has to be done, and this is the bigger of. Despite setbacks, Chhattisgarh has the will, and it is fighting. Naxal's area have been gradually taken out. So Rajasthan, which was the district on the border of Maharashtra, has considerably weakened Naxal presence, and except in the southern region, the Naxal presence is almost nil there. Garyaban, Dhamtari, also low Naxal presence. Expansion of Maoists in the new areas have been checked, so they have been limited into the areas where they are. Then North Chhattisgarh, which used to have a lot of that has been, the state committee of Maoists that has been dissolved. Senior Naxal cadres have also surrendered, some of them, and Maoist urban links have been exposed. So they are forced into moving back into the forest. And Vidhan Sabha, Lok Sabha election this time has been conducted largely peacefully. The road ahead, it has to be countered. There is no go but to counter this thing, both with as you say, iron fist in velvet glove, and it has to be done. Development has to be side by side along with police action. And demolition of the people's support, the support conduits have to be stopped, and mass organizations like Janta Sarkar or Jan Sarkar, Jan Adalas have to be dislodged from giving judgment or dispensing. Now training, we are using training establishment outside Chhattisgarh also, because it's not enough, and CRPF training center at Latur, Maharashtra, Assam, Suratgarh, Rajasthan, they are all being used. Greyhound courses, which is a very successful thing in the Andhra Pradesh, has been done. But Andhra Pradesh, I might say, and maybe it has to be verified, but basically Andhra Pradesh had Andhra Naxal leaders, and the police people could follow and go into the villages and their own communities, and this was stopped. So the Andhra leaders or Andhrites put their sites in Chhattisgarh, and so the ability of the greyhounds is one factor why Andhra succeeded. But another factor is that most of, or in fact all, Maoist leaders working in Andhra were Andhrites themselves. Army, central police officers were engaged. They should be sent on deputation into training institutions, because then they can take the whole team and train. I would say that even in the central police organization, there should be good numbers of army people from the different, background, like infantry, signals, and such background, commandos, para, they should go, and they should be inducted into the central police battalions, because unlike the army, the central police battalions also have a retirement age of, unlike the army, 60 years now, and by the time this second run goes into these areas, they are old people. Whereas an army person, even if he completes his whole tenure in the army, retires before he is 40. So it's far more effective. And he brings in with himself a good quality of leadership. So somehow we've lost the benefit from that pool of resource, and we got to take that. So I would say that not only the armed forces people should be engaged in training the police forces and the central police force, but also there should be an induction scheme of hopping from the army into the central police. And this requires to be taken up very seriously. Many more counter-insurgency and counter-terrorist schools have to be opened. Because although we are talking of Chhattisgarh and the forest and minerals, this can happen here. And don't blame me that this was not being told. This can happen here in Delhi and in urban areas. And we will not find which way the bullet comes from. I'll give you just an anecdote. Sometime a delegation came and they wanted to meet me when I was governor. And I said, what? They said that it is a delegation of trailers. So I thought, there was a film shooting, and I said that the chaps who come and shoot films and the trailers and all these So I thought it was something like that. And I entered the meeting hall and I find people from all states. There were Maharashtrians, there were Biharis, there were Sikhs, Punjabis, you name it. And they all said that we look after, we have these 27 feet or longer, big bodied trailers. So I said, oh, Naxals are damaging them. But what purpose? They said, no, no, we don't have any difficulty from the Naxals. We take very heavy equipment made of cement and iron because Chhattisgarh is full of that. So I said, what happens? He says, short of Delhi, there's a place called Palwal, where these gangs board these trucks or trailers, and then they are hijacked, and sometimes our chaps come out with a ransom. One truck at that time, one trailer, 27 feet, has not been found anywhere. Now, what do they take? They take the building materials. So, don't be say surprised if some building that we live in have been constructed by such materials, and they are hijacked, they are brought over here because that's the place where they can. So the links of the underworld are quite long and strong. So we have to be aware of the urban guerrilla possibilities, and it's not a very unlikely thing to happen, especially the kind of slums that we have. So I have been into these CI counterinsurgency training schools, extremely good, extremely good. It's as good as any army training school because a person who started and who overlooks it, Brigadier Pomar, extremely dedicated person, and he supervises and he gives that kind of ability which is worth seeing. He was overseeing some training and he fell because he was standing on a branch, broke his leg. He had a couple of steel rods implanted and went back, and he's still there. First class chap. Even CRPF people or some other central police organizations, CISF people are getting trained here. IED school, which was a major requirement, that has been opened and inaugurated by the Chief Minister, and it has an IED model room. In fact, some of the Chhattisgarh officers have been personally, this chap is R.K. Vich, and he's the chief of the anti-Naxal. So he basically looks after the Chhattisgarh operations. But there's a lot more, to it with BSF and the CRPF. CRPF has the largest numbers. And then again another STF, the Special Task Force, that's been finally from 2001 to 2014, June, July, we've had more than 1,000 policemen, some military people, one Air Force people, but basically policemen, laying their lives. And I created this as a kind of a martyr for the fallen. And I insisted that every officer, every senior officer who gets posted in Chhattisgarh, first thing after takeover should go and place a wreath. And every time he gets out, he also places a wreath. And the government, so Raman Singh, passed a government order that this would be done, and now it has become a regular thing. So this is the kind of a thing. But just paying homage is not. We have to prevent people from dying. And as I think I heard General Chipper saying somewhere, that we have to ensure that we don't get killed, but we kill and make others safe. So that's the kind of thing. It is that these people shouldn't fall in vain and let. So that's all, gentlemen. I'm really thankful. I don't know whether I've overstepped the time given. Thank you for having such.